there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Obviously, today we're going to be talking about the angel Sandalphon. Now, Sandalphon is an angel of power, so there's a lot involved when we talk about power and powerlessness, and he actually gives us some really good information for us to reflect upon and to step into our personal power and to feel more liberated. Before we get into it though, once again, I want to thank you for visiting the channel. If you like the content, it would be appreciated if you at least put a like or alternatively subscribe to the channel if you think there's more information that you're interested in. I do have content, the playlists on numerology, for example. That's like doing a workshop on numerology. I have delivered workshops face-to-face and online in the past, and I try and share my information with as many people as possible as part of my own personal ethos of empowerment. You know, knowledge, some people say knowledge is power. I would say the power is actually applying what you know in wise, positive ways to your life. But anyway, let's talk about Sandalphon as I and stumble over my words. Well, you know, it's not AI. This is the real deal. I am human. Anyway, moving on to Sandalphon. So in regard to who and what Sandalphon is and what his powers are, he's actually an angelic prince. He is extremely powerful and he oversees the many powers that are distributed to the order of the Seraphim Angels. His primary goal of creation is to help heal or to give you information and also to send healing light to support you to overcome any barriers that you may hold within you to being a powerful person. And often this is actually more so about our thoughts and misinterpretation of emotions and this kind of thing, but we'll talk specifically about it as we go through the video. So in the first instance, when we talk about the Seraphim, they, generally speaking, we're talking about the hierarchy here, okay? The Seraphim and the Cherubim would be the equivalent of, say, twin flames. One aspect of the creative soul is masculine, the other part is feminine. And we're talking about energy here too. But the thing is, while we know that angels are genderless, they don't need to have gender because actually they don't procreate. No need for it. But what we do know is that the Seraphim will always manifest and present as males in the masculine, and we know that the Cherubim are always going to present as feminine, obviously the polar opposite. This is about duality. The other things that we know about the Seraphim and the Cherubim is that they present with bright colours. In regard to this business of four faces, that's actually related to the Cherubim. If you've watched any of the Cherubim videos, you will have seen this already. As a mission, from a general perspective, they are about empowering people. You know, this is a whole hierarchy, and they offer skills, benefits, strategy, techniques in a wide variety of ways. And definitely with Sandalphon, I think I'll actually probably call him Sandal throughout this video. It's a bit of a gobful. It's actually about releasing any guilt that we may have of being a powerful person, because that's one of the biggest barriers and obstacles that we have. If it's not guilt, feeling guilty about being powerful, it's actually a fear of being a powerful person. Now, just in case I missed saying this, because it gets a little bit repetitive when I'm talking about the hierarchy, the angelic hierarchy and that kind of thing in these slides, when it comes to the Seraphim and the Cherubim, very bright colours are associated with their auras, very vivid as well. So from a practical perspective for you, me and other mere mortals, the powers of the Seraphim and particularly Sandalphon include the strength, abundance, beauty, joy of living and healing. Now, what more can I say? Because I've already touched on this business of being frightened of being a powerful person. Okay, I'll expand on that. What this means is, let's say that you received a promotion at work, or you find yourself in a position where you've got authority over others, but you actually don't like to use that authority, you know, because all good bosses or employers or leaders or whatever, they have to be able to put in place firm boundaries at different times. Now, you can be firm and loving at the same time, but you can also be strong. So this is the kind of stuff that Sandalphon is able to help with. And I'll give a scenario. I recall somebody, a business manager, many, many years ago, who was put in the position they were actually, they were trying to break the backs of the union. So they actually had to fire a lot of the staff. This person that I'm referring to was put in the position of calling all the employees in and firing them. It was not optional. It was either that person did it or they lost their job as well. And what they did was they actually did fire them because they wanted to keep their job. But there was not one person that was fired that actually held ill will towards the person that was doing the firing. The person acted with authority based on their directions. They did the hard yards. They did what was required, theoretically for the greater good of the company, not necessarily for the greater good of the employees. But we could, I suppose, because I like to simplify and use examples of what it might look like in real life. So that would be an example of it. So Sandalphon would help you to release guilt about using your power. And then on the other hand, you will have heard people turn around and say things like, I'm not interested in being the boss or the manager. I'm happy being the 2IC. I just don't want that kind of responsibility to lead. Now, that might be associated with fears of being a powerful person and having to step up and to take these kind of authoritative actions and to be powerful. So it might be a case of, in these instances, that you would call upon Sandalphon to help you to heal those issues of resistance about being a powerful person, to let go of the fear. Now, Sandalphon does give us information, to understand power. It's important to understand what powerlessness is and what it looks like, So when we talk about those people that are frightened of being powerful, sometimes people get given authority and power, if you like, but because they're so consumed by guilt or pain, or this inherent fear, or maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I won't do it well, or whatever, they end up losing their power. It gets taken away from them, or they volunteer it over anyway. So an example of powerlessness, according to Sandalphon, is victimisation, and he articulates that this is a fear of personal power. Now, this can, just a trigger warning here, okay, for people, this can include being the victim of violence or even assault and abuse, okay? Even if we're in a bad relationship, I will articulate it a bit better because that's going to be a bit stark. There's a lot of people out there that are dealing with the trauma of having been a victim, but this is about putting it in perspective and healing from this victimization as well, okay? Even when we're in a bad relationship or a workplace where we're being bullied, because there's so much of that happening, where people attempt to make you feel smaller, they may attempt to use emotional manipulation, tell you that you're not good enough or that you're somehow inferior to them. These are all symptoms of being afraid of your own power or afraid of exerting it, okay? So you might, let's use the workplace and workplace bullying as a scenario. You might be well aware that that person is being manipulative or devious, but you're too frightened to call them out because, here's a couple of scenarios. It might be your boss and you're scared that if you call them out, you might lose your job. And then you won't be in a position to financially support yourself. So we are incredibly vulnerable, and it takes strength to actually step up and address this and step into our power. This is why I've put the little chicken hatching, okay? Because clearly that's a very vulnerable stage for that little chicken. And actually, I just realised I said this. Well, I suppose in Australia we would turn around and say that, yes, we don't step up to the bullying and address it and step into our power because we're a little bit chicken. So what Sandalphon wants us to know is that power lies in our emotions, and this is the power to be able to love intensely, to feel a connection with the Creator, because the power and of the love of the Creator, we receive it back, and this love helps to fulfill our personal purpose. It brings meaning to our life, and the power of emotions means being able to be open to receiving the abundance and to be able to know and express the truth, while maintaining a healthy mind, body, spirit. So some of the seraphim are blessed with these amazing gifts of healing others, or to direct the forces of nature and to manifest or destroy things. They can see and hear or feel other dimensions, and they can see the future, and they can remember the past. Now, these are blessings they can share with us, and they can empower us with once we've cleared away enough of our personal fears. And his guidance is you'll know which of these gifts are yours to pursue when you are ready to be open and accept them. I've got some invocation further down, but I want to make a point here that when we talk about the emotions, and he makes reference to the business of being a victim, when we lock ourselves into a destructive emotional cycle, this is when we become closed. We're going to talk about this a little more in a moment. So there is no inference here that if you've been the victim of something horrendous, that you by any means chose that or whatever. Where your power lies within these situations is to shift beyond it, to not, those old sayings, those old pearls of, I am not who I've been, I'm not where I've been, I'm not going to let the past define me. There is relevance in this. When you have those kind of approaches, you're actually stepping into your power and you're stepping into emotional mastery. So that's the power of overcoming victimization. So Sandalphon also says that as you go through the process of empowerment, you're rediscovering the power of love. This is the power to give love and to receive love. Now, incidentally, this process also includes forgiveness, and forgiveness, of course, is about love. I do have another video up, which is the guidance of Angel Sandalphon. Forgiveness, just to help you out a little bit here as we go through this particular video, forgiveness is definitely not a case of saying, whatever happened to me is okay, especially if it involved abuse or violence. It means actually acknowledging a few things and making a few conscious choices. That is, one, choosing not to let it define your future, choosing to focus your thoughts and attention on the love of the Creator and stay really focused on it, and accepting that the reasons for why things have happened are not always immediately apparent to us. Sometimes we don't see the reasons or see through the pain of a situation until further down the track. And then at some point in time, we're able to turn this around and make it into a blessing, even if there was a lot of pain involved, okay? You might also start to see from an emotional perspective that during some of these situations that you might have found yourself in, that you actually disregarded your intuition in specific situations, and you could consciously choose to be more alert in future to responding to your own guidance. And then there is the matter also within all of this, when you sit there and you've had a really horrible experience and you doing the like, why me, why did this happen? Then there is a matter, if you actually can't find a valid reason, I think then there becomes a question of, well, was this part of my divine plan? Before I got into my spiritual stuff, I used to regularly ask myself, what, did I think I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof before I was born? It was a joke, okay? Now down the track, I think, oh yes, I think I really did have some pretty intense karma that I needed to work out from a previous life. But either way, in regard to divine plans, there's another video up already, the Angel Micah. So it's about, I think, recognizing through this process of developing self-awareness and understanding that, there may have been a divine part in whatever happened, because it may well have been part of balancing the karma from previous lives. As I have said, within my own situation. So we're looking here not just about expanding our self-awareness and our mind, but we're also expanding our soul. Even if we're not given access to the answers that we want when we first start contemplating, well, why did this happen? We can actually get answers, but that's a story for another day. But for the starting phase, the guidance that Sandalphon is giving us, the process of empowerment is to learn to accept, to let it flow naturally, to release this resistance. And when you're frightened of power, there are many things that you might be doing subconsciously to decrease your feelings of power, shall we say, or to stimulate and control what it is that you're receiving from the universe. And that could be your guidance as well. By that I mean putting up barriers to it. Okay, ways that people will attempt to subconsciously manipulate or control the energy is through things such as cigarettes, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, drugs, the big S word that ends with X, and they might watch a lot of TV, or they might sleep too much or sleep too little. These are all ways of walking around being a powerful person, shall we say, avoidance strategies. So basically, Sandalphon's advice is that, you can establish yourself where you sit within the position of being a powerful person and what barriers you might have just through the activities of reflection. You can just ask yourself some questions to identify: are you subconsciously manipulating the energy? Are you resisting your personal power? Beyond the ways already mentioned, there are questions to ask yourself. Do you find yourself on an emotional roller coaster, and has fear reduced your feelings so that you feel emotionally numb? I mean, you could have one or the other. You could be on this roller coaster, or you could just feel like numb and the Walking Dead. What else? All of these feelings, they're going to reduce your personal vibration. This means that less light will be able to get into your aura. These are the blockers and the barriers. The other ones that are important to look at is, do you judge yourself harshly, and do you expect too much of yourself? Do you expect yourself to meet this unreal perception of what perfection actually looks like? People have these ideals in their head about a perfect person will do X, Y, and Z. Really, in whose world? This is where that saying comes from. We're all perfect. Okay, we are all perfect. We're all perfect right now. We're perfectly placed on our divine path, on our divine plan, and we're walking a journey of life, and we are all in an ongoing state of evolution. So we can be perfect right now today as manifestations of the Creator, but at the same time not be superior than other people, because, how would I explain it? Because we're all perfect. Nobody's more perfect. If you've got perfect, nobody's more perfect than anybody else. We're all just on a journey. That's the only way I can think to describe it. But if we are tolerant and kind to ourselves, then we accept that, we may make errors of judgment. We may do the wrong thing at different times, but that's part of growth. And the important thing is to recognize when we do the wrong thing, or if we do something that is not in alignment with our divine plan, that we at least have the magnanimity, if I can say the word, of spirit, this capacity to be able to acknowledge that we may have made a misguided action, or taken a misguided action, and to try and make good with it. And if that means apologizing to a person or doing restitution, then we need to do it. But anyway, I am digressing. Now, we also get a bit of healing guidance here as well. And this is that, the strong negative emotions are actually brilliant blessings in disguise. And I want you to think about, not too far into it, a time when you had a massive reaction and what that actually felt like physiologically. Okay, it's let's say you get triggered and something happens. I click my fingers, and if you heard that noise, something happens and you just automatically go into this emotional reaction. And if it's a really intense emotion, it kind of rips through your body. Okay, so that is kind of like an announcement. Instead of judging that emotion, accept that that emotion happened. Okay, what is that emotion telling you? Okay, we can direct that emotion to consciously help to release the old wounds and beliefs that are part of this trigger. Okay, this is your natural power to heal. Now, your subconscious will step in here when these kind of things happen. As we learn to master our emotions, the subconscious might turn around and go like, oh no, that's anger. Oh my goodness me, I can feel that's rage. We don't have rage. We don't have anger, because that's not love and light. Okay, so the subconscious is going to try and push that down and control it. Okay, which incidentally, there's a place for that too. Not so much suppression, but if you've got it, you actually need to get yourself somewhere safe ASAP, so that you can release these emotions in a healthy, safe way where you're safe and where other people are safe. Now, when I say get yourself away, that doesn't mean if you're going through really difficult emotions that you need to do this on your own. You may need to have a therapist to help you, depending on the level of the wounds, but it is about directing this emotion that you get, this release, and establishing what it conveys to you, because there's going to be a trigger within you. It's showing you there's a wound there, and it's up to you to look at what is this wound saying, what created this wound. Am I reacting to this because of past experiences, which you probably will? Something happened and this has reminded me of this and that. Or is it telling me that I'm oversensitive to negative criticism because I have such a low self-esteem and I need to work on building my self-acceptance and self-love? These are things that we can do. Now, Sandalphon does tell us it does take practice, and while we go through this process of healing and recognizing our emotions and consciously claiming the power, because if you can feel pure rage, you can feel pure love as well, undoubtedly. But anyway, once you consciously claim that power and you start to identify not only your emotions, but also healing them, using your mind to focus and guide you through your feelings, and looking at your feelings, changing your attitude to them. The feelings are teachers, and it's important to give yourself permission to be a learner or a student of your emotions so that you can actually embrace and step into your personal power. I hope that makes sense. If you've got questions, leave a comment. Or if you feel that you can better express what it is that I'm trying to convey here, please do, once again, leave a comment. So when we talk about our emotions as being teachers, right, what they're teaching us is our attitudes and our beliefs, because these influence how we feel. Now, an example of how this plays out is like, if you believe that there's an old boy network out there where, older white men, they get privilege or whatever, or they're more powerful, then what you will do is actually your life will go down this pathway where you will meet people that fulfill this prophecy, and you will continue to feel that life is a bit futile and hopeless. That's just one way it works. If we believe that money is going to, another scenario, if we believe that money is going to be the answer to all of our problems, then regardless of how much money we make, we're still going to feel emotions of deprivation and lack, because we are ignoring the rewarding aspects of life. We have been looking at what we don't have as opposed to what we do have. Now, I think a really good example of that is somebody that is perhaps a workaholic, where they, because it just plays out. Look, if you focus all of your energy on making money and being a workaholic, then it's going to be very difficult to create and set aside time for maintaining healthy relationships and healthy family relationships and even your friendships. So you will start to feel disconnected and isolated from other people, and you won't have those same emotional rewarding experiences that we get through social connection. I say social connection, but I mean healthy relationships, okay? Another example of how attitudes and beliefs can shape our emotional experiences of life is, I'm almost loath to mention this, because I've worked with Indigenous people, but somebody that's perhaps in a social minority group, not necessarily Indigenous, but of course Indigenous will often find themselves on the societal peripherals, and they will feel powerlessness. They will feel, because this is what happens when you're on the peripherals. And I mean, the same can even be said for people that are poor, regardless of their cultural background. If they're living in a section of society where they have very little autonomy and control over how they live, and how they express themselves, then yes, it actually feels quite disempowering, quite futile and quite hopeless. But then there's another aspect that comes into it as well, and we did touch on this at the beginning. There are some people who have power and privilege, but they feel incredibly guilty for it. And I think we see a lot of this at the moment because we're living in a world where it's kind of becoming a very victimized mentality. It's like we're celebrating suffering instead of celebrating success and maturity or whatever. I'm not using the right words, but okay, so let's say there is one person who, by the privilege of their birth, it could be, let's use race, let's use color, because this is so whatever controversial, but I say it with respect. I'm not meaning to create harm here, okay? There might be somebody that is born to one specific race or color. Might be a Jewish person, it might be a white person, and these sort of groups or demographics are associated with having more privilege. Not necessarily true, by the way, but there is this consensus that if you're Jewish or you're white, then you must be really rich and had a lot of privilege in your life. So whether you have or whether you haven't, there are people within this group that feel guilty because of, say, their religion or because of their skin color, and they make apologies for being part of that social demographic when actually it's not them and they don't have those privileges, so they don't need to feel guilty about something that may have happened as a consequence of perhaps their ancestors or their social demographic. We don't judge one person by the masses, and this is regardless of whatever group you're in. And then he makes the point that there is other ways of looking at how our attitudes and beliefs shape our lifestyle in ways that create powerlessness, okay? And this would be the people that have got these issues around money. And we're doing a video on prosperity. Money is not the problem. Money is an energy. I'm just putting that out there now. The problem is when people will exploit other people in the pursuit of it. So it's not money that's the problem, it's the people's approach to it. But either way, powerlessness can be when we turn around and tell ourselves things like, money doesn't matter, the material world is meaningless to me, I've no interest in being part of conforming with a society that is focused on money. All right, that might be part of it. So then they withdraw from society. They put themselves into the peripherals and they keep telling themselves it doesn't matter, it's not important. But then in the process, they feel alone, they feel isolated, and they're living in poverty. And they keep having to tell themselves it's okay, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, they're thinking, well, actually, it does. It would be really nice for X and Y. So it's about looking. His advice is look at our attitudes, look at our beliefs, and look at how that enhances love and connection, and feeling powerful within. Power doesn't have to be powering over the top of people. It means autonomy and being able to control ourselves and what's going on in our own lives. So his advice is that ask the Creator and him to help guide you through your personal life story to establish what actions you need to take, and any thoughts, beliefs that you need to change as part of you stepping into your personal power. I'm always cautious about using the word need, okay? Because this is about free will and desire, your choice. If you choose this, what are the actions that you need to take to achieve your personal power? So part of the message that Sandalphon conveys to us is that when it comes to receiving and invoking our power again, there is a process once again that's involved, and this is about, I would convey it as being affirmation, conscious decision making, okay? So how would I explain this? It becomes about affirming a conscious choice, a decision that you are making, and it's going to involve a couple of steps. You consciously will need to inform the universe, inform Creator and Sandalphon that you are willing to make the changes. This is the first step, that you choose to, you want to shift. I'm combining two words together there. That you want to change and shift from being a powerless person to a powerful person. And there is a commitment involved with this choosing, a commitment to do whatever needs to be done as guided by the divine to reclaim your personal power and to walk your divine path. Now, this means making a few extra choices, okay? There is the conscious choice, the decision to be open to and receptive to unearthing your fears and any imbalances, about taking actions to work through the fears that you find as you dig deep and addressing them and replacing feelings of powerlessness with feelings of love, kindness, and compassion. There's also the recognition within this process that you're committing to yourself. Okay, this is telling yourself and the universe that you will be honest with yourself and your feelings, that you will express them, you will be expressing them in peaceful and safe ways. There is a release involved with this expression, and you will allow the wounds to heal. And this is all part of the process of removing any obstacles to the flow of personal power, which you will receive as you make these commitments and go into the invocation stage, which we'll talk about shortly. Now, what you're going to find as you make this commitment and exhibit and demonstrate your free will and your choices is that what you are committing to becomes a burning desire, a real desire. There's no trying to force or pretend to yourself that you want to release fears and guilt or of using your power. It actually becomes a burning desire to use your power according to your divine plan. Now, you can make this commitment by way of a universal statement. I would encourage forming it in your own words before you do an invocation, and then Sandalphon's guidance is repeat it as often as you feel guided to. Now, I must say, if you're hearing the in my voice, that's because the puppy has suddenly got active. Okay, so I'll just breathe through it and get on to the next slide. So Sandalphon, he wishes and encourages you to invoke and call upon the Creator and Him as often as you feel the need to, and he encourages you to call and invoke regularly, and as you access your power, that you use your power responsibly and with wisdom. Now, I've put some examples of how you can invoke here on this slide, but basically what you're asking for is to be filled with wisdom and self-forgiveness as you go through this process of claiming your personal and emotional power, for support and help and guidance around your own life story to establish what actions you need to take and any thoughts or beliefs that might need to be repatterned to ensure that you're open to this divine flow of universal energy as you make this fabulous, amazing steps into your personal power. Now, just a reminder too, when we talk about the angels of the Seraphim and the cherubim, they both love ceremony, okay, both those angelic orders. So I would suggest when you're invoking them, it would be helpful to create a little bit of a ritual, not as in something off or whatever, but a gratitude type ritual. Consider lighting a candle using incense, if I can speak, essential oils. You might, if you haven't done it before, create a little angel altar, pay respects to the elements, use earth, wind, air and fire. I like to actually use the tea light candles and essential oils. That kind of brings in wind and air at the same time. Flowers I like to put crystals down as well. If I have a candle, a tea light candle, then I've got the flame happening as well, so I bring the fire in that way. So these are just suggestions to you about what you can actually do. Now, if you don't have essential oils, it doesn't matter, because if you've got flowers, they can represent the earth as well. Same with crystals. Floating flowers in a tub of water can also bring in the water aspects as well. They're just some ideas there. I would like to think by this time, if you're a returning visitor to the channel, that you actually don't need to be reminded that all invocations and activities where we're trying to access the divine and build our connection, that we should follow up with gratitude. But, realistically, sometimes I forget as well, which is why I do the gratitude in advance for blessings seen and unseen. I will quite often do that. You've just got to have a sense of humour. I don't know if you can hear that squeaky toy in the background. But either way, if you're new to the channel and you're not aware of this, gratitude is energetic. It's a ascension attitude. And the more gratitude we can hold and experience, the faster we actually escalate our personal vibration. Just simplifying it there. So, my friends, that's it for the content and information that I can share with you today. I'm going to close and say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've found value in the content that I've shared. I hope you have a wonderful, blessed week, blessed day. And I'm just thinking, I'm trying to find that special saying that's, be a powerful person, be brave, step into your power. You're a powerful person, you're a divine manifestation, you're perfect right now, and we're all growing at all times. I'm going to love you and leave you with that note. I'm going to catch you next time. Take care, my friends. Bye bye for now.